What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York. We are back at the altar. Hope you all had a great holiday. And today we are here with Karl of An Abstract Illusion. Thanks for being here. It's great to have you here, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's really nice.
Yeah, it's an honor to have you here. I got to tell you, your album was one of the albums I was looking forward to the most this year, and thank you for ending this year the same way we ended 2016 on a great note with Illuminate the Path. We got Whoa out now. Was the intention of this album to just make a continuation off of Illuminate the Path, or was this like a brand new beginning for An Abstract Illusion?
I think that we started recording Whoa kind of right at the end of Illuminate the Path, like 2017. I think we started recording the drums. So the reason it took so long is, several different reasons, recording wise and whatever. But the process of making the music has been ongoing from kind of like Illuminate the Path. So this big gap between the albums isn't really kind of like a hiatus. It's just a lot of different things happening in life, and I think that we have kind of evolved in how we write our music, but I think that we're still kind of. If you listen to Illuminate the Path and then listen to Whoa, you will notice differences, but I don't think it's not like it's a completely new band. But there's differences for sure.
Yeah, of course. You could definitely tell a distinction between Woe and Illuminate the Path. I think maturity, and evolution is definitely present. But being that, you were working on these songs for a long period of time, is what we're hearing on Woe how these songs were originally envisioned and structured, or did they change a lot over a span of time?
I think the skeleton was kind of the same all the time. Because since we recorded the drums so early, we kind of had to adhere to a kind of structure all the time. So you had the album kind of flows as one, so not separate parts or separate songs. And we added things, and we kind of rearranged some riffs or sections, and we also added some new sections into the songs, like for Tear Down This Holy Mountain, the long atmospheric section with the kind of Pink Floyd-ish solo that was added after we had the drums. So they evolved over time, but I think that the main structure was kind of in place already. And then of course we used the time it took to record it and write it to kind of make things more interesting. Maybe it was more bare bones at first, and then we started adding some, maybe we can do this on this riff, or we can add kind of this melody or this transition. So structurally it kind of remained the same, but it also became more interesting in the end, I think.
Does the songwriting process ever start with a preconceived vision or sort of an idea before you put pen to paper on music, or is the songwriting process a very improvisational and very experimental sort of process?
It very much depends. Sometimes we feel like maybe we could have this kind of section here, like maybe synth parts or like a keyboard parts or maybe a solo, or sometimes I'm just sitting with my guitar and jamming something out, and it seems like, oh, this is a cool riff, or this is a nice melody. So it's both. You kind of have to look at a bigger picture and see, okay, now we have had a few minutes of this, what could fit after. So I would say it's pretty planned, but kind of what we want to do, but there's also some kind of improvisational element over it at first, and then you kind of take one idea and then you start to, you develop it and makes it a stronger idea overall.
Definitely. Definitely. And, you know, because I've always thought that in Abstract Illusions, music was very emotional. I could definitely get a lot of different vibes and a lot of different visions and a lot of different forms of energy within your music. Do you find it though, like as you said, this was a long gap between albums. Do you find it like the longer you're working on something, the harder it is to sort of maintain the emotion that initially sparked the creative idea?
Yeah, there's definitely a risk of overworking something. You kind of have to maintain the original idea in a bit. You can't just start. I don't really know how to put it, but I mean, there's always kind of, when I write music, there's always kind of a basic idea, like a basic melody or a basic chord progression or just some basic atmosphere, and that kind of evolves. So maybe you do something different with the melody the next turn around or whatever. But I mean, the kind of basic emotion you had when you wrote the song or the section kind of have to stay the same, or else you won't feel the same about the parts. So yeah, it's kind of like a difficult balance at times that you feel like maybe it's a very basic idea, but at the same time, you don't want to, I don't know, destroy the initial planning of it.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to let the song evolve on its own. You can't suffocate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, also you being the bass player of an Abstract Illusion, as well, but being very involved in guitar as well. But when it comes to bass, and you know, we've all heard our fair share of terrible bass player jokes in rock and heavy metal, but it has such an emphasis on both rhythm and melody in a way. So does that, by having those two things by your side, that allows you to kind of be more focused on the song, right? You can almost visualize it or experience it from many different aspects, both a melodic part and a rhythmic part.
Yeah, definitely. I've been playing. I mean, I feel mostly like a bass player or guitar player, but I've been playing bass for over half my life, so it's always kind of been there. So you know, I kind of get like, I mean, like you put it, the best of both worlds. I can get the melody or the different note choices with a guitar, but I can also be the one who gets to hold down the groove together with the drums. I mean, you kind of get to. I think that's the nice part about being in charge of both the bass and guitars is that, I mean, as a main songwriter, you have to think about everything, kind of. So if I were just a guitarist, then I wouldn't maybe be as good at kind of like the rhythmic parts. So I think that has definitely helped.
Yeah, I've noticed
Writing.
there is a very distinct difference when I've talked with singers and guitar players who started off as a drummer, and you could almost hear it in their riff arrangements. Like you could tell, okay, they have a rhythmic training in a way, and like it actually very much helps. So
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
when it comes to an Abstract Illusions music, I don't know if you're not the vocalist. I don't know if this is necessarily the best question to ask you in particularly, but being the main songwriter, is the music very conceptually driven for an Abstract Illusion? Does Illuminate the Path or Whoa have its own like distinct storylines that are meant to be interpreted by the listener?
With Illuminate the Path, I was also mostly the lyricist. I mean, we kind of told different stories in the Illuminate the Path. It was many different, like human stories, or it could be about nature or whatever. And with Woe, we kind of we wanted to focus more on like the oppressive nature of some things like religion or just human psychology. So I think this is the lyrics are something that Christian wrote, the vocalist. So he has a lot better knowledge of it. But I mean, it's kind of like three different storylines the song 1 to 4 is like one storyline, and then Blomsterkrans, the piano piece, has one storyline, and then the two last songs are like the same story.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm sorry. I wasn't sure if you were finished, but like, because for me, when I listen to an abstract illusion, it is almost kind of like a ritualistic aspect for me. I need to start off with the Atonement is High EP before I get to Illuminate the Path, and then believe me, when Woe came out, I was like, okay, before I start listening to that, I got to listen to the other two previously. And kind of one more question regarding this topic, but could the idea or the storyline that you guys think of, could that maybe influence the music itself in a way, or do you all prefer to have music before any storyline or concept is brought to fruition?
we write the music first, and then the story comes later. But I think that maybe the lyrics are influenced by the music. Like if it's very angry music, then the lyrics are very angry. Is it very hopeful music, then the lyrics becomes more hopeful. But yeah, I don't think that the lyrics are really influential in the music, because it's usually the other way around.
Yeah. And when it comes to the music that you write, this is kind of like a very deep, kind of looking inward question, but like, is it a reflection of an emotion or a feeling that you are all building? Is it like a lot of looking inward in a way, or has music been an escapism where you kind of don't like to bring your own personal experiences or emotions into it?
I think that I don't really know. It's a very tricky question. I think that what we write, I mean, yeah, that may be a subconscious part of what you're feeling right now. That's you're feeling angry, then maybe you write some angry music or whatever. It's not really something. I don't really think. I'm not really like sad or angry, and I think I have to pick up my guitar right now. It's just always something that's with me all the time. So yeah, I don't know if it's something that influences it directly, maybe subconsciously.
Well, I think it's fair to say that inspiration usually strikes at the most inconvenient times, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Like when you're trying to sleep and you're like, oh, we should do that instead. Then you have to take out your phone or something and just write it down.
Oh God! And is it ever like heartbreaking too, where you think of the greatest idea, you write it down, you prepare it, but the execution is always a disappointment in a way?
I mean, sometimes if you're kind of like repeating it enough in your head, you start building all the different blocks that you need to have to get it on paper or get it like in reality on the computer. But I mean, sometimes you feel like you have the greatest idea when you're maybe working or maybe like in the shower or whatever, and then when you try to execute it, yeah, it doesn't sound as good as when you had it in your head.
Yeah.
So I mean, sometimes you're lucky that you can kind of build on it enough that you know what each maybe instrument will be playing. So when you actually record it, it sounds good.
Yeah. But if you build upon it too much, though, you could also get very sick of it, and then you just hate everything you incorporate into it.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. I feel like, I mean, for me personally, when I write music, I usually have the music going 24/7 in my head. I mean, I can't really stop it. I guess it just goes like a carousel of music. So I think that a good test for my own music, if I can think about it all the time and not get sick of it, then I feel like, yeah, that's probably good enough to record and release. But if it's maybe some idea that you think sounds cool at first, and then you it kind of loops in your head all the time, and then you don't really feel as strongly about it, yeah, it's probably not that good.
Yeah. And you mentioned that you like everybody gets inspired in the shower. I've told it. Like every time I ask an artist, like, oh, where has been the greatest place? They always say a source of inspiration. They always say the shower. The shower is a fountain of inspiration. So they need to make home studios that could fit in people's showers with like waterproof gear, and
Yeah.
so this way they could always be inspired and they never have a studio block.
Yeah, definitely. I get inspired a lot when I'm out walking as well, or exercising, or if I'm like in a work meeting when I can't do anything about it. Then I feel like that's when my ideas start popping up as well.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, what I've noticed is about with metal in Sweden, and not even just Sweden, but Scandinavia, is like at 90% of the bands I've interviewed from Scandinavia, and trust me, there's a lot of them at this point, but like they always take inspiration from nature, and I've always, regardless if it's melodic death metal or black metal or prog metal or metalcore, they're always taking inspiration from nature, and I found that really impressive that that in Scandinavia all of you just seem to really embrace the nature that you've all been blessed with.
I think that it's also, I mean, we have cities, we have big cities.
Yeah, it was.
But I mean, so many of us grew up in like smaller towns, and smaller towns in Scandinavia are always, and in Finland as well, are always surrounded by lots of nature, like archipelagos or forests or lakes or whatever. So it's inevitable that you come across it. I don't really know how it's in America. I think that the cities are more widespread, and there's less natural nature as well in the cities. So I think that, I mean, even if you grew up in like a big city like Stockholm, Sweden's capital, you always have like the rivers and lakes and forests nearby. So you're never far away from it. So yeah, of course it influences a lot for us.
Yeah, I was in Stockholm in the summer, and it was truly breathtaking because I've hanging out with the locals in Stockholm in the metal scene. They're all telling me like, yeah, we're in a band, and part of going to practice is just taking a walk in the woods. One of my favorite musicians from Sweden, the singer of Life Lover, he will walk for 3 hours in the forest just to think of one lyric.
Yeah, definitely.
And how do you know when you are finished with a song? Because an Abstract Illusions music could go on for hours. I feel like with every song I could picture it going on for another 2 hours, but I could also picture it being just as strong in 2 minutes. So how do you know when to declare an Abstract Illusions song finished?
Very good question. I don't really know the answer myself. I mean, at some point you have to kind of think that, yeah, I could probably develop this idea more and more, so it becomes like a 30-minute song or whatever, but I don't think that's really what you want to hear as well. You kind of have to pick the strongest ideas that you have and then put into, like, yeah, this is where it ends. So I think that Woe was kind of like, I mean, it's kind of like one song all the way through, so you can repeat something you can have an idea in the beginning that you repeat like 40 minutes later. So I guess that's part of the positives of having one continuous song all the way through, that you don't feel like you have to wrap up things at first. But now I'm writing a lot of songs that have a definite beginning, middle, and end. And the hard part is that I have so many ideas that I want to put in that you have to end them sometime. So I think that the answer is you have to take a pretty hard look at your song and see what can I take out. Because otherwise, I would be able to write songs that are way too long.
Yeah, you'd still be writing the first song off of a tournament is not.
I mean, the first song we ever released is like 16 minutes. So
yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, hey, that's not, and for a lot of prog bands, that's considered too short. So.
Yeah. Sure.
But it's funny you mentioned that too, because I've noticed that the structure in a song like Slaves or Prosperity is kind of like a little bit different than a track such as "This Torment Has No End" or "In the Heavens Above." So like it almost seems like the song in itself has its own experimental structures in a way. Is it fair to say that trying new things is fairly easy for an abstract illusion because it almost seems like there's no limits?
Yeah, maybe. Thanks for that. I think that it's usually like a mix of things. I mean, in the Heavens Above, you have the long intro, then you have a verse, and then you have like a bridge, and then you have a verse again, kind of like a variation of the verse, and then you kind of drifts in its entire different entirety territory. I guess we are very inspired by like Opeth in that way, that they don't have the typical, you know, verse chorus thing that has to go through the entire song. I mean, it's more of what fits the song, what fits the flow of the song. It's not we have to have a good verse and a good chorus and like a bridge and a solo. It has to be, maybe after a slow part, we feel like we have to have a fast part, and then that doesn't have to be anything really. It can be another section completely. So we're not really putting a framework in place for the songs. We're not limiting ourselves by that. So yeah.
And the final question I wanted to ask you is, with an abstract illusion being a trio, like, is it better if all of you guys are feeling the same way about a certain song or part, and you're all on the same page, or could your different ideas or your different feelings of a song maybe actually help enhance what makes an abstract illusion an abstract illusion?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we all three of us come from different perspectives, and we have different strengths. So, I mean, I'm kind of like the main songwriter. I come with the most ideas and the structure, but their input is, Robert's and Chris' input is also crucial to making abstract illusion what it is. I mean, if it would just be me, I mean, the keyboard parts wouldn't be as good if Robert didn't do his thing, and the vocals wouldn't be as interesting, and if Chris didn't do his thing. So. Yeah, I think that our three different perspectives make an abstract illusion what it is, and I think that's our strength in the end.
Definitely works well as a listener.
Thanks.
Yeah. So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for a great recovery from the holiday hangover, as I like to say. Is there just anything else with an abstract illusion you would like to promote for the release of Whoa in terms of shows, new music? Any chance abstract illusion could come to the States one day?
I mean, we would love to come to the States, but it's very expensive for a smaller European band. I mean, with all the visa and travel and everything. I mean, we have a spot at Prague Power in the Netherlands next autumn. So if any European fans or North American fans want to come there, then they're welcome. But we don't really play live that much. We are trying to like get the ball rolling and going out to play. So right now it's not as much, but I mean, you can enjoy our three previous albums. So in the meantime,
or I'll just smuggle you guys in here one day.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that would be great.
That would be a great story. Like you get busted for smuggling a band. It'd be like, oh, this isn't drugs. Oh, I love this band. Okay, you guys are good. Like. So yeah. I'm waiting for that to happen one day. But thank you so much, everybody. We are here with an abstract illusion. Be sure to pick up Whoa, and if you're just discovering this band, be sure to check out their previous two offerings, Illuminate the Path and Atonement is Nigh. We will see you next time on Heavy New York.